The great crystal towers of Nexus Prime reached into the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the largest tower, representatives from across the galaxy gathered in a circle. Their forms were different. Some walked on two legs, others floated in the air, and a few needed special suits to breathe. But they all shared one thing in common. They had come to remember the dead. Ambassador Zethkara stood at the center of the circle. Her blue skin glowed softly in the dim light. The crystals growing from her forehead caught the light and threw it back in patterns that meant sadness to her people. She had done this ceremony many times before, but today felt different. Today marked exactly 500,000 years since the humans had vanished. "We gather once again to honor the lost," Zethkara said. Her voice carried through the chamber without echo. The crystal walls absorbed sound perfectly. 500,000 years ago, a species disappeared from our galaxy. They called themselves humans. They came from a small blue world they named Earth. A low hum filled the room. It was not quite a song, not quite a prayer. Different species made the sound in their own way. The Vorthic clicked their claws against their shells. The gas beings pulsed with soft light. The machine minds sent careful electronic tones into the air. The humans were unlike any species we had known, Zethkara continued. They were violent. They were unpredictable. They asked questions that had no answers. They broke treaties and started wars. They challenged everything we believed about how civilized beings should act. High above the chamber, an old keeper named Mothron listened from his private balcony. His species had been around longer than most. He remembered the humans better than the others. The young ones only knew stories. But Mothron had been there when the first human ship arrived at Nexus Prime. He had seen their ambassador's face when the Pevent Council rejected their request for membership. That ambassador had been a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had spoken calmly even when the council voted against her people. "You will regret this decision," she had said. Not a threat, just a statement of fact. "My people have something this galaxy needs. We bring change. Without change, everything dies." The council had laughed at her words. Change was dangerous. Change brought chaos and war. The galaxy had finally found peace after millions of years of conflict. Why would they want to risk that for one small species? Then the Great Silence came, Zethkara said. Human colonies across the galaxy went dark. Their ships stopped responding to signals. Their home world became a field of broken metal and cold rock. In one day, humanity vanished. No distress calls, no final messages. They were simply gone. What the ambassador did not say was how much the galaxy had changed after the humans left. Wars became rare. Conflicts were solved with words instead of weapons. Trade flowed freely between systems. New technologies were shared openly. It was everything the council had wanted, but something else had changed too. Something the council did not like to discuss in these ceremonies. Innovation had slowed. Birth rates had dropped. Entire species had become content to stay in their own systems instead of exploring new ones. The galaxy had become peaceful, but it had also become still. Like a pond with no wind to disturb its surface. Far from Nexus Prime, in the cold darkness between stars, something stirred. The asteroid was unremarkable. Star charts listed it as KBO 2847, just another chunk of rock and ice drifting in the Kuiper Belt where Earth used to be. It had been there for so long that automated surveys no longer bothered to scan it. There was nothing to see, nothing to find. But deep inside the asteroid, behind layers of rock and metal and carefully hidden doors, machines that had slept for 500,000 years began to wake up. Warning lights blinked on in corridors that had been dark since before the pyramids fell on Earth. Computer systems ran through startup sequences that took days to complete. Fusion reactors that had been cold as space began to warm. The asteroid was not what it seemed not in the deepest part of the hidden complex. Thousands of crystal pods lined the walls. Each pod held a person. They floated in blue liquid that kept their bodies safe from time. Machines monitored every heartbeat, every breath, every brainwave. These machines had been watching and waiting for 500,000 years. Now their timers had reached 0. The first pod to open belonged to Admiral Sarah Chun. She had been 42 years old when she went to sleep. She was still 42 when she woke up. The liquid drained away, and the crystal lid slid back. Cold air touched her skin for the first time in 500 millennia. Sarah's eyes opened. They were dark brown and very calm. She had known this. Day would come. She had prepared for it. But knowing something and living it were different things. "Status report," she said. Her voice was hoarse from long sleep. "Admiral Chun," a soft voice replied. It came from everywhere and nowhere. "You have been in stasis for 500,000, 237 years, 4 months, 18 days, and 7 hours. All systems are functional. The fleet is ready." Sarah sat up slowly. Her body felt strange after so long. But the machines had kept her muscles strong and her mind sharp. She would need both in the days to come. Casualties? She asked. 17% of pods experienced critical failures over the extended sleep period. 83% of personnel have successfully revived or are in the process of revival. Sarah nodded. It was better than she had hoped. Worse than she had planned. But it would have to be enough. She looked around the revival chamber. Other pods were opening now. Men and women who had volunteered for the longest mission in human history were waking up to find their species extinct and their home world destroyed. Or so the galaxy believed. Had the Watchers maintained surveillance as ordered? Sarah asked. Yes, Admiral. Full galactic monitoring has continued throughout the stasis period. All major political, technological, and military developments have been recorded and analyzed. The galaxy has changed significantly. Sarah smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. Show me. The air in front of her lit up with images. Star maps, battle records, trade routes, population figures, technological assessments. For 500,000 years, hidden human sensors had watched the galaxy grow and change. The information was overwhelming, but Sarah's enhanced mind processed it quickly. The galaxy had indeed changed. Wars were rare now. Most conflicts were solved through negotiation. Technology advanced slowly and safely. New species were welcomed peacefully into the galactic community. Everything was orderly and controlled. How boring, Sarah said. Status of Project Ark? All ships report ready for deployment. Technology upgrades complete. Personnel revival proceeding on schedule. We can begin operations at your command. Sarah stood up from the pod. She was naked and wet, but she felt strong. Around her, more people were waking up. Engineers and soldiers and scientists who had given up everything to sleep in the dark between. Stars. They had trusted her to wake them when humanity was ready to return. That time had come. Begin Phase 1, Sarah ordered. Wake the fleet commanders first. Then start bringing the ships online. But keep us hidden for now. Let's see what this peaceful galaxy does when ghosts start appearing in their perfect order. Understood, Admiral. Initiating Phase 1 protocols. Deep in the asteroid, more lights began to blink on. Computers that had calculated the orbits of planets sent signals to ships hidden in the dark. Those ships began to wake up too. The galaxy thought humanity was dead. Soon, they would learn the truth. Humanity had never left. They had simply been waiting for the right moment to return, and that moment was now. 3 days after the memorial ceremony on Nexus Prime, Dr. Kelani Voss received the strangest report of her career. She was the galaxy's leading expert on human archaeology, a field that had grown popular after humanity's disappearance. Dead civilizations were safe to study. They could not argue with your theories or prove you wrong. Kelani sat in her office on the research station orbiting Kepler 442b. Through her window, she could see the planet below. It had once been a human colony world. Now it was a museum. Tourists came from across the galaxy to see how humans had lived. The buildings were preserved exactly as they had been found. Empty homes with meals still on tables. Playgrounds where human children had once played. Schools with lessons still written on boards. Professor Voss, her assistant, called from the doorway. "You need to see this." The young Delphic male looked nervous. His purple skin had turned almost white, which meant he was scared. Kelani sat, downed her coffee cup, and followed him to the monitoring station. "What am I looking at?" she asked. "Signals from the planet's surface," her assistant said. "The fusion reactor at Site 7 just turned on." Kelani stared at the readings. Site 7 was the human research facility in the southern continent. It had been dead for 500,000 years. The fusion reactor had been cold as space, for longer than some species had existed. "Run a diagnostic on our sensors," Kelani said. "They must be malfunctioning." "I already did. 3 times. The readings are correct. Something down there is drawing power from the reactor. A lot of power." Kelani felt her stomach drop. This was impossible. The human facility had been searched by thousands of archaeologists. Every room had been mapped. Every computer had been studied. There was nothing left that could activate a fusion reactor. "Send a team down immediately," she ordered. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Vex of the Vorthic Empire was having an even stranger day. His patrol ship was investigating reports of unusual energy readings in the outer rim. The readings had appeared and disappeared so quickly that most people thought they were sensor errors. But Vex was careful. His species had not conquered 300 star systems by ignoring strange reports. The Vorthic Empire was built on the belief that preparation prevented disasters. "Contact on long-range sensors," his communications officer reported. "Unknown vessel, bearing 27 Mark IV. Classification?" Vex asked, unable to determine. "The ship appears to be using some kind of stealth technology. We can barely detect it." Vex moved to the sensor station. On the screen, he could see a faint outline of something large. It was too far away to make out details, but it was definitely artificial. And it was moving toward the heart of Vorthic space. "Hail them," Vex ordered. No response to standard. "Frequencies. Try the emergency channels." Still nothing. Vex watched the unknown ship for several minutes. It moved smoothly through space, changing course in ways that suggested advanced propulsion. No species in the galaxy had stealth technology that good. The best systems could hide a ship for a few hours. This vessel had been invisible until it chose to reveal itself. Then, without warning, it sent a message. The signal came through on an old frequency that had not been used for centuries. It was the emergency channel that human ships had once used to identify themselves. But that was impossible. There were no human ships left. The message was short and simple. "Rendezvous point. Alpha. The children have grown up in our absence." Before Vex could respond, the unknown ship vanished from sensors completely. His crew ran every scan they could think of. They found nothing. It was as if the ship had never existed. But the message remained in their computer systems. And the coordinates for Rendezvous Point Alpha led to a system that had been empty for as long as anyone could remember. Back in the hidden asteroid base, Admiral Sarah Chun stood in the command center of the starship Indomitable. The ship had been built inside the asteroid, hidden from galactic sensors for 500,000 years. It was larger than any vessel the current galaxy had ever produced. Around her, the bridge crew worked at stations that would have been impossible to understand even 50 years ago. Human technology had not stopped developing when they went into hiding. If anything, it had accelerated. With no wars to fight and no politics to worry about, human scientists had spent 500,000 years perfecting everything they could imagine. "Report," Sarah said to her second-in-command. Captain Marcus Torres was a tall man with silver hair and hands that moved like a musician's. He had been head of engineering when they entered stasis. Now he was something more. The machines had enhanced him during the long sleep, making him part human and part computer. "All fleet elements are operational," Marcus said. "We have successfully awakened 47 ships without detection. Our stealth systems are performing better than expected. The galaxy's sensor technology has actually gotten worse since we left." Sarah nodded. That made sense. When everyone was peaceful, there was no need for advanced military sensors. The galaxy had grown comfortable. Comfortable species made poor guards. "What about their response to our probe signals?" Sarah asked. "Confusion, mostly. Some panic. The Vorthek Empire has mobilized 3 patrol fleets to investigate the energy readings. The research station at Kepler 442b has sent teams to investigate the reactivated human facility." "Good. Fear makes people think clearly. How are our monitoring systems?" Marcus smiled. It was an expression that did not quite look human anymore. The machines had changed him in ways that went beyond the physical. "Admiral, we have been watching this galaxy for 500,000 years. Our automated systems have recorded every major war, every treaty, every technological breakthrough. We know more about current galactic civilization than they know about themselves." Sarah moved to the main display screen. It showed a map of the galaxy with thousands of colored dots representing different species and their territories. The map looked peaceful. Borders were clearly marked. Trade routes flowed smoothly between systems. Everything was organized and controlled. It was exactly what the old Galactic Council had wanted when they rejected humanity's membership. "Show me the population trends," Sarah said. The map changed. Numbers appeared next to each species' territory. Sarah studied them for several minutes. What she saw confirmed what their long-range sensors had been reporting. "Birth rates are declining across all major species," Sarah observed. "Some are below replacement levels." "Yes," Marcus agreed. "The ethereal dominion has not had a natural birth in 3,000 years. They rely entirely on artificial reproduction now. The Delphic worlds have lost 30% of their population in the last 100,000 years. Even the Vorthek Empire, for all their military strength, is producing fewer offspring each generation." Sarah had expected this. It was one of the reasons they had planned their return so carefully. A galaxy without conflict was a galaxy without challenge. And without challenge, species stopped growing. They became comfortable, and then they began to die. "What about technological development?" she asked. "Minimal advancement in the last 200,000 years. They have perfected what they have, but they have stopped inventing new things. Their greatest achievement in recent history was a treaty that standardized ship designs across all species." Sarah laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Humanity had been rejected because they brought chaos and unpredictability. Now the galaxy was so predictable that it was strangling itself. "Time to wake them up," she said. "Begin Phase 2. I want every human archaeological site in the galaxy to show signs of activity. Nothing threatening. Just enough to make them curious." "What about direct contact?" Marcus asked. "Not yet. Let them wonder first. Let them investigate. Let them remember that there are still mysteries in their perfect galaxy." Marcus nodded and began giving orders to the other ships. Across the galaxy, hidden human technology began to activate. Old colonies that had been museums for millennia started showing power readings. Derelict ships that had drifted in space. For eons suddenly began broadcasting identification codes. The galaxy's archaeologists and historians would be very busy in the coming days. On Kepler 442b, Dr. Kelly Voss stood in the human research facility that had been dead for longer than her species had been spacefaring. Now the lights were on. Computer screens showed data in human writing that her translation programs could barely understand. And in the center of the main laboratory, a holographic display showed something that made her blood run cold. It was a star map, but not just any star map. It showed the current positions of every major fleet in the galaxy, updated in real time, with details that should have been classified at the highest levels. Someone had been watching. Someone had been learning. And they had just announced themselves. The galaxy's age of peace was about to end. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was called at dawn on Nexus Prime. For the first time in 50,000 years, every major species sent their highest representatives. The crystal chamber that usually hosted peaceful trade discussions now buzzed with fear and confusion. Ambassador Zethkara looked tired. Her blue skin had lost its glow, and the crystals on her forehead were dim. She had not slept since the reports started coming in. Human sites across the galaxy were waking up. Old ships were broadcasting signals. And strangest of all, several exploration teams had simply vanished while investigating these activities. "The situation is clear," announced General Korv of the Vorthic Empire. His shell was scarred from old battles, and his eyes were the color of dried blood. "We are facing an invasion. The humans have returned, and they mean to reclaim their territories." "That is impossible," said Dr. Wellen of the Delphic Worlds. Her voice was soft but firm. "The humans are extinct. We have scientific proof of their destruction 500,000 years ago." "Then explain this," Korv said. He activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. It showed sensor readings from the past week. Energy signatures that matched nothing in the galactic databases. Ships that appeared and disappeared without explanation. And coordinates that led to empty space where massive power sources were detected. "Our scientists believe these are echo signals," Dr. Wellen replied. "Automated systems from the old human colonies finally breaking down. The energy readings are probably fusion reactors going critical before they explode." "Exploding. Reactors do not send organized messages," Korv growled. "Nor do they make our patrol ships disappear." The chamber fell silent. 3 Vorthic patrol vessels had vanished in the past 2 days. Their last transmissions showed them investigating unknown contacts. Then nothing. No distress calls. No debris. They were simply gone. High Keeper Mothran floated down from his observation platform. His ancient form moved slowly through the air, supported by technology older than most species in the room. When he spoke, everyone listened. His people had been keeping records longer than anyone else. "I was present when the first human ambassador came to this chamber," Mothran said. His voice was like wind through old leaves. "I remember her words when we rejected their application for membership. She said we would regret our decision. She said her people brought something the galaxy needed." "What did she mean?" asked Zethkara. "Change," Mothran replied. "The humans believed that without change, civilizations die. We thought they were wrong. We thought peace and stability were more important than their chaos. And they were wrong," Dr. Wellen insisted. "Look at what we have achieved. 500,000 years of peace. No major wars. Prosperity for all species. The humans would have ruined that, would they?" Mothran asked. "Tell me, Dr. Wellen, when was the last time your people discovered something truly new? When did any of us last explore beyond our current borders? When did we last face a challenge that made us grow stronger? Dr. Wellen opened her mouth to answer, then closed it. The truth was uncomfortable. The galaxy had become very good at maintaining what it had, but it had stopped reaching for what it did not have. On the hidden flagship Indomitable, Admiral Sarah Chon watched the council session through cameras that should not have existed. Human technology had advanced far beyond galactic understanding during their long exile. They could see and hear anything they wanted without being detected. "They are starting to understand," said Captain Torres. He stood beside her at the main display screen. "The smart ones are realizing that their perfect peace has made them weak." "Not weak," Sarah corrected. "Stagnant. There is a difference. A weak species dies quickly. A stagnant species dies slowly, but it still dies." She turned to her communications officer. "Status report on our reconnaissance operations." "Phase 2 is proceeding as planned," the officer replied. "We have successfully observed the military capabilities of all major powers. The Vorthic Empire remains the strongest conventional force, but their technology is centuries behind ours. The Ethereal Dominion has the most advanced sensors, but they cannot detect our stealth systems. The smaller species rely entirely on alliance protection." Sarah nodded. It was what she had expected. The galaxy had grown comfortable with its current level of technology. Without the pressure of conflict, innovation had slowed to almost nothing. "What about our missing patrol ships?" she asked. "All crews are safe and unharmed aboard our vessels. We have been studying their technology and methods. They will be returned to their fleets with their memories intact, but their ship databases have been copied." "Good. Begin Phase 3. I want the galaxy to see what we can do when we choose to reveal ourselves." 12 light-years away, the ethereal scout ship Harmonies. Voice drifted through space near the coordinates where a massive energy signature had been detected. Captain Silmaren was the best sensor operator in the Dominion fleet. If anyone could find a hidden human ship, it was her. "Full spectrum scan," she ordered her crew. "Look for anything that does not belong in empty space." Her sensors swept through the area for hours. They found nothing unusual. No ships. No stations. No signs of artificial construction. Just empty space and distant stars. "Contact," her sensor operator suddenly announced. "Large vessel bearing 0-9-Mark-7. Distance uncertain." "What do you mean, uncertain?" Silmaren demanded. "The readings are inconsistent. The contact appears to be both very close and very far away simultaneously. The computer cannot resolve the distance." Silmaren moved to the sensor station. On her screen, she could see something that should not exist. A ship that seemed to exist in multiple locations at once. It was large, larger than anything in the galactic fleets. And it was moving in ways that violated known physics. "Hail them," she ordered. Before her communications officer could respond, the unknown ship spoke first. "Greetings, Captain Silmaren of the ethereal scout ship Harmony's voice," a calm human voice said. "We have been watching your search efforts with interest. You are very thorough." Silmaren felt her crystalline heart skip a beat. The voice had used her name. Her real name, not her official designation. Information that should not exist in any database outside ethereal space. "Who are you?" she asked. "We are the children of Earth," the voice replied. "And we have been away from home far too long." On her screen, the impossible ship began to change. What had looked like empty space suddenly revealed itself to be solid matter. The ship was massive, easily 10 times larger than her scout vessel. Its hull was black as space itself, and covered with patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Your ship is a work of art," the human voice continued. "We have been studying ethereal design philosophy for quite some time. You build with harmony. and balance. It is beautiful but predictable. What do you want? Silmarin asked. Her voice was steady, but her hands shook. To show you something new, the human replied. Watch carefully. The human ship began to move. At first, it seemed normal, just another vessel changing course. Then Silman realized what she was seeing. The ship was not moving through space. It was moving space around itself. The stars in the background were bending and twisting his reality, warped to accommodate the vessel's passage. Impossible, her engineer whispered. Nothing can manipulate space-time like that. Nothing that you know of, the human voice said gently. We have had 500,000 years to learn new things. We have had time to solve problems that your species consider impossible. The human ship moved closer. As it approached, Silmarin could see details that made no sense. The hull seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Lights moved beneath the surface in patterns that resembled neural networks. And somehow, she could hear music coming from the ship, not through her communications system, but directly into her mind. Do not be afraid, the human voice said. We mean you no harm. We simply want you to take a message back to your people. What message? Silmarin asked. That the galaxy has forgotten how to dream of tomorrow. You have perfected yesterday and called it progress, but perfection is death. Only change brings life. The human ship began to fade from her sensors, not moving away, but becoming transparent, like a ghost returning to whatever realm ghosts called home. Tell them that humanity offers partnership, not conquest, the voice continued as the ship vanished. Tell them that we bring gifts they have forgotten they needed. Tell them that the age of comfortable sleep is ending. The voice fell silent. Silmarin's sensors showed nothing but empty space. But in her ship's computer memory, she found something impossible. Complete technical specifications for human technology that was centuries ahead of anything the galaxy possessed. Blueprints for engines that could fold space, weapons that could disable ships without destroying them, medical devices that could extend life indefinitely, and at the end of the data files, a simple message. This is what we learned while you slept. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council session had devolved into arguments. Some species wanted to mobilize their fleets for war. Others insisted on attempting diplomatic contact. A few suggested hiding and hoping the humans would go away again. Ambassador Zithkara called for order, but her voice was lost in the Fleet Admiral Krexvar of the hegemony of Kresh was not a patient being. His species had evolved from hunters who struck fast and hard. They believed that the best defense was a quick attack. When reports came of human ships appearing throughout the galaxy, his response was simple and direct. We will destroy them before they can establish a foothold, he declared to his war council. The humans were dangerous before they disappeared. They will be even more dangerous now. The Kresh military had grown powerful during the long peace. While other species focused on trade and diplomacy, the Kresh had maintained their warrior traditions. Their ships were built for battle. Their soldiers trained constantly. They were confident they could handle any threat. Admiral, his tactical officer said, our intelligence suggests the humans have advanced technology. Perhaps we should gather more information before. The time for information gathering is over, Krexmar interrupted. His red eyes glowed with determination. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. We attack now, while they are still few in number. The target was simple. Human archaeological teams had been detected at an old research station in the Kethrel system. The station had been abandoned for 500,000 years. Now it was showing signs of activity. Krexvar decided it would make a perfect example of Kresh strength. He assembled a fleet of 200 ships, destroyers, cruisers, and battle carriers that could reduce a planet to ash. It was more firepower than most species possessed in the air. Entire military. Against a single research station, it would be complete destruction. The galaxy needs to see what happens to those who threaten the peace, Krexvar told his fleet commanders. We will broadcast the battle across all frequencies. Every species will know that the Kresh protect galactic security. Unknown to Krexvar, his every word was being recorded by sensors he could not detect. On the human flagship Indomitable, Admiral Sarah Chun watched the Kresh fleet prepare for its attack. She had expected something like this. The galaxy's warrior species would need to be taught a lesson in humility. Captain Torres, she said, deploy the Wraith to the Kethral system. Let us show the galaxy what we learned during our long sleep. The Wraith was one of humanity's newest ships. It had been built during the exile years using technology that pushed the boundaries of physics. The ship was small by galactic standards, only 300 meters long. But its size was deceptive. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the Wraith with quiet confidence. She had been 28 when she entered stasis. The long sleep had given her time to dream of flying ships that could do the impossible. Now she would make those dreams real. Approaching Kethral system, her navigation officer reported. Kresh fleet detected. 200 vessels in attack formation. Only 200? Alana smiled. They are either very confident or very foolish. Orders, Captain? Standard defensive protocol. Disable their ships without casualties. Make sure. Their sensors record everything for their replay analysis. Understood? The Kresh fleet arrived at the research station with weapons powered and shields raised. Fleet Admiral Krex Var expected to find human soldiers and defensive positions. Instead, his sensors detected only one small ship drifting near the station. Single contact, his sensor operator reported. Human vessel destroyer class. No shields. Raised, no weapons powered. Krexvar stared at the display. This was too easy. Where were the defenses? Where were the fleets? Had the humans sent only one ship to defend their research station? It is a trap, his tactical officer warned. No. Species would send a single ship against our fleet. Then we will spring their trap and crush it, Krexvar declared. All ships, attack formation. Target the human vessel. Fire when ready. 200 Kresh ships moved into position. Their weapons locked onto the small human destroyer. Energy. Cannons charged to full power. Missile tubes opened to reveal hundreds of warheads. It was enough firepower to destroy a moon. Human vessel. Krexvar broadcast on all frequencies. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick. The human ship's response came immediately. It was a female voice, calm and amused. Fleet Admiral Krexvar. Captain Vasquez said, we have been monitoring your communications. Your species believes that size and numbers determine victory. Today, you will learn something new. Fire! Krexvar ordered. 200 ships opened fire at once. Energy beams and missiles filled the space around the human destroyer. The attack was so intense that it created a small star where the human ship had been floating. For several seconds, nothing could survive in that inferno of destruction. When the light faded, the human ship was gone. Target destroyed, Krexvar's tactical officer reported with satisfaction. Negative, the sensor operator called out. Contact reappearing. Distance ... impossible. The human ship is now behind our formation. Krexvar spun to look at his displays. The human destroyer had somehow moved from the front of his fleet to the rear in the time. It took light to travel across the battlefield. No ship could move that fast. All ships, turn and engage, he ordered. But before his fleet could respond, something strange began to happen. One by one, Kresh ships started going dark. Not exploding, not breaking apart, just losing power and drifting in space. What is happening? Krexvar demanded. Unknown weapons fire, his tactical officer replied. The human ship is using some kind of energy beam that disables our systems without destroying the hulls. Return fire. The Kresh ships that still had power turned their weapons on the human destroyer, but hitting it was like trying to catch smoke with their claws. The ship moved in ways that seemed to ignore the laws of physics. It phased in and out of reality. It appeared in multiple locations at once. It moved through space-time as if space-time was just another medium to swim through. Meanwhile, the disabling beam continued its work. Ship after ship lost power and drifted helpless. But the crews remained alive and unharmed. Their life support systems continued to function. Their artificial gravity still worked. Only their weapons and engines were disabled. This is impossible, Krexvar's engineer reported. Their weapon is somehow targeting only military systems, while leaving life support intact. The precision required is beyond anything we have seen. In 12 minutes, it was over. Every Kresh ship in the fleet had been disabled. 200 vessels drifted powerless in space. Their crews were alive but helpless, and the human destroyer floated among them like a predator that had chosen mercy over slaughter. Fleet Admiral Krexvar, Captain Vasquez's voice came over the communications system. Your ships and crews are unharmed. Your weapons and engines have been temporarily disabled. Power will be restored in exactly 24 hours. How? Krexvar asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Mathematics, Elena replied. During our exile, we learned to solve problems that your species considers impossible. We learned to fight wars without killing. We learned to disable threats without destroying them. We learned to make precision strikes that target only what we choose to target. On every Kresh ship, computer screens lit up with information. Technical data flowed across their displays. Equations that described weapons technology centuries ahead of anything the galaxy possessed. Blueprints for engines that could manipulate space-time. Mathematical proofs showing how the battle could have ended differently. This is what your attack accomplished, Elena continued. You demonstrated the gap between your capabilities and ours. You showed the galaxy that violence is no longer the answer to galactic problems. And you learned that humanity has moved beyond the need to destroy our enemies. The data transmission concluded with a simple message that appeared on every screen. In the Kresh fleet, imagine what we could build together instead of what we could destroy apart. Throughout the galaxy, the battle was watched by billions of beings. The Galactic Council had monitored every moment of the engagement. Other fleets had observed from a safe distance. The entire confrontation had been broadcast across all communication networks. The reaction was immediate and profound. Some species were terrified by the display of human technological superiority. Others were fascinated by weapons that could disable without destroying. And a few began to understand the message behind the demonstration. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Zethkara sat in her private chambers and watched the recording of the battle for the 5th time. Each viewing revealed new details about human capabilities. The ship that had defeated an entire fleet was not just technologically advanced, it was mathematically elegant. Every move had been calculated. Every action had been precise. The humans had not simply overwhelmed the Kresh through superior firepower. They had demonstrated a completely different approach to conflict resolution. They had shown that it was possible to win without causing casualties, to defeat an enemy without destroying them, to end a battle without ending lives. Her communication system chimed with an incoming message. The source was listed as unknown, but she recognized the transmission pattern. It was human. Ambassador Zethkara, a male voice said. This is Admiral Sarah Chun of the Human Ark Fleet. I believe it is time we spoke directly. Sethkara's crystalline heart raced. She was about to become the first galactic representative to speak with humanity in 500,000 years. "I am listening," she replied. Admiral Sarah Chun had never walked the crystal corridors of Nexus Prime before. No human had set foot on the galactic capital in 500,000 years. The last human ambassador had been escorted away in shame when the Council rejected humanity's membership application. Now Sarah walked those same halls as an equal. The crystal walls were beautiful. They caught light from the purple sun and threw rainbows across the floor. Everything was perfect, clean, ordered, peaceful. It was exactly what the galaxy had wanted when they chose stability over the chaos that humans brought. Sarah wore a simple black uniform with no decorations, except a small silver pin shaped like Earth. Her hair was gray now, though the stasis sleep had kept her body young. Her eyes were dark and calm. She looked like someone who had seen the rise and fall of civilizations and learned wisdom from both. Behind her walked Captain Torres and 2 other officers. They carried no weapons. They needed none. The galaxy had seen what human technology could do. Words would be more powerful than weapons in the conversation ahead. The council chamber was full. Every major species had sent their highest representatives. Even the ancient keepers had descended from their observation platforms too. Hear what humanity would say. The circular room buzzed with nervous energy. Sarah walked to the center of the chamber where 500,000 years ago a human woman had stood and been rejected. The irony was not lost on her. Humanity had been deemed too dangerous for galactic civilization. Now that same civilization was dying of safety. "Honored representatives," Sarah began. Her voice carried clearly through the crystal chamber. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chun. I speak for the human species and the Ark, fleet that has protected our people during our long exile." A murmur ran through the assembled delegates. Some were afraid. Others were curious. A few seemed angry that humans had dared to return. 500,000 years ago, this council made a decision, Sarah continued. You chose peace over growth, order over change, safety over the unknown. You rejected humanity because we brought chaos to your perfect galaxy. Ambassador Zithkara stood up. Her blue skin glowed more brightly than it had in years. The conversation with Admiral Chun had given her much to think about. The decision was made for good reasons, Zethkara said. Humanity was violent, unpredictable. Your species started wars and broke treaties. You challenged everything we had built. Yes, Sarah agreed. We did all of those things. We were young and foolish, and thought strength meant the ability to destroy. We have learned better during our exile. Then why did you return? General Korv of the Vorthic Empire demanded. His scarred shell gleamed under the crystal lights. If you have learned wisdom, why not stay in exile and leave us in peace? Sarah smiled. It was a sad expression, full of knowledge that came from watching civilizations from a distance. Because peace without challenge is death, she said. Because safety without risk is stagnation. Because a galaxy that stops growing starts dying. She gestured to the chamber around them. Look at what you have built. Perfect harmony. No wars, no conflicts. Every dispute solved through negotiation. Every species content with their borders. Every civilization satisfied with their achievements. And that is wrong? Dr. Wellen of the Delphic Worlds asked. It is beautiful, Sarah replied, and it is killing you. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Representatives stood and shouted in dozens of languages. Sarah waited patiently for the noise to die down. When it did, she continued speaking. During our exile, we studied your civilizations. We watched your populations decline. We recorded your technological stagnation. We observed your cultural stasis. Do you know what we discovered? Tell us, High Keeper Mothran said. His ancient voice cut through the tension. That consciousness requires chaos to evolve, Sarah said. That intelligence needs challenges to grow. That civilizations without conflict become comfortable, and comfortable civilizations die. She activated a holographic display in the center of the chamber. Numbers and charts filled the air above the delegates' heads. Birth rates, innovation indexes, exploration statistics. The data painted a clear picture. Your birth rates have been declining for 200,000 years, Sarah explained. Some species are below replacement levels. The ethereal dominion has not produced a natural child in 3 millennia. The Delphic worlds have lost a third of their population. We have artificial reproduction, Dr. Welling protested. We have medical technology that extends life indefinitely. But you have stopped wanting to reproduce, Sarah replied. Your species have lost the drive to create new generations. Why? Because there are no challenges left for your children to face. Number. Frontiers to explore. No problems to solve. The data display changed to show technological development over time. The lines were flat, almost horizontal. You have perfected what you have, Sarah continued. But you have stopped inventing what you do not have. Your greatest achievement in recent history was a treaty that standardized chip designs. You have turned innovation into committee decisions. Stability prevents wars, General Korv argued. Stability prevents growth, Sarah countered. You have created a galaxy-wide civilization that is slowly dying of contentment. She walked closer to the assembled representatives. Her presence filled the chamber with an energy that had been missing for 500,000 years. The energy of possibility, of change, of the unknown. Humanity offers you a choice, she said. Continue on your current path and fade peacefully into extinction, or accept our partnership and learn to grow again. What kind of partnership? Zethkara asked. We will share our technology, our discoveries, our innovations. In return, you will share your wisdom, your culture, your perspectives. Together, we will push beyond the boundaries of what any of us could achieve alone. And if we refuse? Dr. Wellen asked. Sarah's expression became sad again. Then we will respect your decision. We will return to our exile and leave you in peace. But we will also seed new worlds with human colonies. We will build new civilizations that embrace change and growth. And when your perfect galaxy has died of its own perfection, humanity will inherit the stars. The chamber fell silent. The choice was clear. Accept humanity as partners and risk the chaos that came with them, or maintain the status quo and face slow extinction. High Keeper Mothran spoke first. My people have watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. We have seen what happens to species that stop challenging themselves. They become beautiful. They become peaceful. They become extinct. He floated down from his platform to stand near Sarah. The keepers choose partnership. Ambassador Zethkara was next. The ethereal dominion has spent 3,000 years perfecting our harmony. Perhaps it is time to risk discord again. We choose partnership. One by one species declared their decisions. The smaller civilizations mostly chose partnership, eager for the growth and possibilities that humanity offered. Some of the larger powers hesitated. A few refused entirely. General Korv stood last. His red eyes burned with ancient warrior pride. The Vorthic Empire has maintained our strength while others grew soft. We do not need human partnership. We respect your choice, Sarah said. The offer remains open if you change your mind. As the council session ended, Sarah knew that the galaxy was about to change forever. Not all species would accept humanity's return. Not all civilizations would embrace the chaos of growth. But enough had chosen partnership to make a difference. Captain. Torres approached her as delegates filed out of the chamber. "Orders, Admiral?" "Begin the Renaissance Protocol," Sarah said. "Deploy our ships throughout partner territories. Start sharing our technology. Begin the joint exploration programs. And prepare to catch our new allies when they stumble during their growth, and the species that refused partnership." Sarah looked out through the crystal walls at the purple sky of Nexus Prime. In the distance, she could see human ships taking positions around the planet, not as conquerors, but as gardeners preparing to tend a galaxy-sized garden. "We will watch them," she said. "We will protect them from external threats. And when they are ready to grow again, we will be here." 6 months later, the first joint human-alien expedition left for the Andromeda Galaxy. Their mission was simple: find new worlds and new challenges for their civilizations to face. The age of comfortable stagnation was ending. The galaxy was growing again. It hurt, as all growth does. It was messy and unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous. But it was alive in a way it had not been for 500,000 years. In the deep space between galaxies, automated sensors detected the expeditions, departure, and added it to records that would be transmitted to distant stars. Somewhere in the universe, other civilizations would learn that intelligence and courage still existed. That consciousness had chosen growth over comfort. That the species called humanity had returned to push the boundaries of what was possible. Stars, as always, waited for those brave enough to reach for them. And humanity, as always, was ready to reach.